Good morning, Upper School, and welcome to week 8 of our English sessions. This week's focus is on semicolons, so let's take a look. Semicolons can be used within a sentence to link two clauses. So that's linking two sentences that are closely linked together. The clauses must be about the same thing and must be of equal importance. Let's take a look at some examples, shall we? Here's the first one. The door creaked open, and then our semicolon, Peter tiptoed shyly into the room. So as you can see, if I was to hide this sentence of Peter tiptoed shyly into the room, you will see that it leaves the sentence of the door creaked open. That would be perfectly fine to be by itself, and we would end it with a full stop. But we want to add more information with our next sentence. And because they are closely related, we put our semicolon. So, it's not as strong as a full stop, but it's stronger than a comma. And that's why it's made of a full stop and a comma. If you have a look, our colon, but it's a semicolon. So we've got a comma at the bottom. And we can see, if I was to hide the first part of the sentence, Peter tiptoed shyly into the room. That would still make sense on its own. Let's take a look at another example. It was time for lunch. Pizza was on the menu today. Can you see that we've got our semicolon? It was time for lunch. Full stop would make sense on its own. Pizza was on the menu today. Is there anything you notice about this sentence? Why don't you pause and have a think? Did you find it? It was that if we use a semicolon, there is no need for a capital letter in the second part of our sentence. So in that second clause, there is no need for a capital letter, unless it's a proper noun. So like Peter in our first example. So always remember, we have our first clause, then our semicolon, no need for a capital letter, and then our second clause. And they must relate closely together. So, the girl has now found her way through into the palace and is now on the waterways that go around it. Let's take a look at some sentences that involve semicolons and that describe this picture. Once the girl had entered the castle, she found herself using a complicated system of locks to rise higher up the towers. As she bobbed up and down in the little red boat, she looked around and took in the spectacular views. The tops of the spires were covered in glittering gold, and then our semicolon. Soldiers peered out through the turrets of these towers and waved cheerily. Other boats were also negotiating the aqueducts, and our semicolon. Barefooted men holding long poles stood upright, propelling their craft through the water. Sighing happily, the girl continued drifting along. So as you can see, there's not a need to litter this whole paragraph with lots of different semicolons. Sometimes it can be used for effect. So let's just quickly read one of our sentences again. The tops of the spires were covered in glittering gold. That gives us a really good visual idea of what it looked like. And we also know, using our semicolon, that in these towers and at the top of the spires, soldiers peered out through the turrets of these towers and waved cheerily. It really helps us to understand and allow the reader to take a breath within such detailed sentences. So, our challenge for this week is if you can write a lovely paragraph around our picture that involves maybe one or two of these semicolons. And post it on Purple Mash on the blogs, and we look forward to reading them. And I can't wait to share with you next week our next objective.